Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of our program. In our previous program, we talked about who an elect is and how an elect is gotten. We also talked about the issue of government, or rather, I would say we tried to touch the issue of government a little bit based on the discussion we had about an elect. And today we are going to be, highlighting a form of government which we find ourselves involved in around the world, which is democracy, because that's the government of man. But before we get into what we have for you today, we know that the issues we have raised demand a level of clarity. So with that in mind, you can send us an email via the email addresses on your screen, and be rest assured that we will respond to you. And for those of you who wish to join us live in our sessions, to have your questions asked and answered directly from us, you can indicate that on your mail, and we'll establish a video link to have you join us via Zoom, Skype, or Google Meet. So, and on that note, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that that procedure doesn't require any monetary charge. All that is required is your access to the internet, and you can join us. In today's forum with me, I have my brethren, Sister Udwak from my far right. I have Brother Savior. I myself am Brother David. I have Sister Yuti and Brother Kufre. So, we'll get into what we have for you today. When we spoke about the elect, we tried to make it clear enough for those of you watching to see and understand that an elect is someone who has been chosen to be a figurehead in the midst of the people. And with men, you can't get that. With men, you can't get that because we established that man didn't bring himself. So he definitely doesn't know the reason for which he was brought. And in extension, he doesn't know where he is headed. So the person who brought him, or the spirit who brought him, had a purpose for bringing him. So man is expected to wait till the spirit who brought him, or till the person who brought him is with him, to let him know the purpose for his introduction into the world. So I will try to establish the fact that that person who should be a figurehead amongst men is who the person of God, or that's what the person of God represents. And that's who the elect is. And we try to read some various Bible passages to buttress that fact. And on that note, we now, try to touch the issue of government, on how the need for government, because Brother Savior talked about, or he asked a question rather on our previous episode, trying to find out what the essence for the introduction of government is. And we try to touch that to let those of you watching know that government was introduced as a means to establish control amongst men, because the spirit in man, or the spirit that operates with men, is a spirit that doesn't have control, which is why the outcome of all our activities show that we lack the control. And we try to touch certain areas that show that truly man doesn't have control. So today we'll be touching an area that concerns each and every one of us, which is democracy. We have established democracy as a form of government, and we say that democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We made that statement in our previous forum, but we didn't dissect or analyze that because we had already decided that on our next forum, which is this sitting, that would throw some light on that. We try to talk about how that line of thought has completely removed God from the picture. That democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So automatically it removes God. And on the background, we still cry for God for help. That shows you that the people can't govern themselves. It shows that the people can't lead themselves to that, what we say expected end that we all are crying for. So we still cry for God. So it shows that what we carry out as democracy, that form of government, has no bearing with God, and it needs to end. Because the spirit, or will I say the original program of the spirit that brought men was that the governance of men, the government, understand, that's the control of man. That's what we have established government to be, that the control of man will be upon the shoulders of God. You see, but because, just as we have established on our previous episodes, that because of the fact that God hasn't been present in the midst of the people, the Spirit of the Lord who brought them allowed us to go in this same way which we are crying about. He allowed us to establish ourselves in this way, but still with the mindset of establishing God, to have Him call us back to Himself. That's why we have been instructed to return to Him, so He will return to us. So now we are trying to let our viewers, or let the world in general, see the shaky foundation of this our nature of government, which is democracy, where everyone is entitled to his own opinion. And I ask, how possible is that, or how practically is it for everyone to be entitled to his own opinion? Because that's what democracy avails us. The majority carries the vote. So I'm throwing it out as a question to those of us on this forum and to those of us watching. How possible is it, or how practical is it for everyone to be entitled to his own opinion?
I've said before in one of the episodes that I think the last episode, I talked about the challenge that we have as man.
Yes.
When you are given a spirit that can't see forward, can't see future, can't see what ahead of him.
Yeah, foresight, as we will call it.
Is automatically a time bomb for such a person that is carrying that spirit. And that is the challenge of every of us as man. So the concept of the spirit, which is what we see in the scripture, in the Bible, call it the scripture. A lot of people call it scripture. But Bible is one of the scripture.
Yeah, one of
so
them.
We can't say Bible is just the scripture. It's one of the scripture. So you see that there's a concept that the spirit has generated. And men are now driving on the concept. But their way. I don't know whether you understand my point.
Yes.
We are driving the concept, but our own way. That is because of lack of waiting. So if man were to wait, and you can see that from Genesis account, man doesn't have the spirit that can wait in everything that we do. Everything. So we don't have that spirit of waiting. And that is the first thing that God demands from any man. Waiting. So trying to go ahead to figure things become a problem that we have. So you see, the elect is the word of the spirit. You see, the government is the word that the spirit plays in the book. You see, democracy now is what we are dwelling on today.
Yeah.
Even though we did not finish the government. But we are going to touch, like we said, we are going to touch part of it from the democracy. Because of time, we won't go far. So you can see that these words are words that the spirit generated.
Yeah.
But just like you have said, the first phase of man is what the spirit introduced to make us dwell in that wrong thing, to keep us waiting until we cry, enough cry, not just a cry, a deep cry for God,
cry for God
to come and help us. So right now we can see it in our world. So when you say how possible or how helpful is this for every man to be entitled to his opinion? We said that. What if you watch even the way we run? Everyone is not even entitled to his opinion.
It's not practical.
Yes. We say a thing. We try to press on them to follow them, but it doesn't work. Because after you have looked for a man that you want to turn praise for, to go and meet you, according to your own opinion, when the man enters into the office, you see that the man tries to exercise the authority that shows that you that are out there, you are not entitled to your opinion. It's supposed to be his opinion that comes as an elect. But because the elect is not coming from the source of the spirit that can see the future of the people and give them a better life. That is why we have said that the elect cannot be a product of men. The elect must be a product of the spirit that generated man. Because he knows how to lead man. Man doesn't know himself, which is all of us in the entire world today. So I don't think that being entitled to opinion is the best answer to every man. And you can see that this very democracy is what everybody in the entire world, the government of the entire world, is dwelling on.
Even those who aren't running a democratic government, feel the pressure from the majority of those who run a democratic government. Like for instance, the US might say, okay, we aren't going to give our support to a certain country because they are still operating under a dictatorship. And that if you don't let the people be the one to elect their leaders, we aren't going to, give any sort of support or aid to your country. You see, so in other words, the whole world is towing that line. You see, the whole world is towing that line, and that line is, the majority carries the vote. But don't forget, we have been made to know or understand that, one with God is a majority. So you ask yourself, how then, or how do we claim that the government that has been established is as a result of the approval of God? And our principle is the majority carries the vote. Why the principle of God is clear to see that one with Him, one with the God is a majority. Isn't that a conflict of ideas, of beliefs?
Yes.
You see, but that's what's going on around the world today, which is why we always keep saying that God hasn't been involved in anything men are doing. And the outcome of all activities shows that the involvement of God is not there. But just as you said, when we are blind, we can't see. And we can't see. When we talk about blindness, it's not a loss of sight. Spiritually, blindness is not the loss of sight, but it's the inability to see, not sight. It's the inability to see.
That is the spirit of man.
Yeah, which is why we say that's the spirit of man, because man can't see. And the seeing is that, like for instance, what makes man blind is the fact that the activities he finds himself involved with, he can't see the detriments. He can't see the spiritual detriment of those activities. All he just sees is, or what he just cites rather, are what he enjoys from it, what he gains from it. And he doesn't see. See, that's where the seeing comes. He doesn't see how detrimental those activities are to his spiritual being. That's what makes man blind. And we are trying to relate that blindness now to the nature of government. We have said now that the nature of government we men, which is democracy, is the majority carries the vote. But with the spirit now, it's one with him is the majority. You see, but the blindness there that we can't see. Because don't forget, we always have it as a saying that, don't follow the crowd. Or don't follow the multitude. Some have the saying, like my dad used to say, he said, because everyone does the same thing doesn't make it right. That's a saying he always used to put to me and my siblings. But then again, majority carries the vote. You see, so irrespective of what when you see the multitude, doing a certain thing a certain way, you are forced, you are compelled to follow, because that is what the structure of man will force you to do, because you can't just have. That's why I said having your own opinion is not practical. You see, because now when you see the multitude doing a certain thing, and based on your own reasoning, you feel like, no, this isn't the way to go. But the government is saying the majority carries the vote, so you are compelled to live that way, irrespective of whatever reasoning you have.
There's a big challenge in this our world, especially in, I will use it in the world, not just especially in Nigeria. We say majority carry the vote.
Yes.
But if you see the challenge that we are facing right now, that is going on in the country right now, about the governance,
Yes.
the president-elect,
The outcome of
the outcome of the election that brought the president-elect.
Yes.
You can see that from the process of the election, there was where majority was facing to bring out the vote. But does the majority win? No. You see, so majority can carry the vote, but the majority doesn't win. I don't know why you understand.
Yes.
There is someone that majority was following, bringing the vote to. But you see that the winning still show you that it is not about the majority. Yeah. Just like what you said at the last episode when we talk about the elect. We said that the elect of men is that we go to vote with thumbprint by balloting.
The gamble
To bring out the elect. But when it has to do with God, because elect is not somebody that men need to produce by thumbprinting. It's supposed to be someone, even if it's men that will bring out, it's supposed to be someone that the men know is capable of taking care of the situation. But no man can take care of the situation. That's why it's not the process of men. I don't know whether you understand. Yes. So we cannot say the elect can be produced by men. It cannot. So you see that even with that, because it's a principle, so men try to make sure they press into it to bring out somebody that they feel that, because of the challenge of the leadership, this one now can solve this present situation. But the question is, can he solve it? No. That is why I said the elect must be that person by whom the Spirit see that, this is the person that I'm going to reach my people from. It's not just a person that is given to men, but himself in the body, that he will now be with men and direct men, just like what you have said before. The elect is God himself in the midst of the people.
And if you can understand that concept, you will see why the nature of democracy has no bearing with God. Because with democracy, men have embraced the fact that they can be the ones to dictate what those in that office of power or authority would do. You see, but you ask yourself, if God is the one in the office of authority, if God is that person in the office of power, are we as men meant to be the ones to tell him what to do? I don't know. I don't know if you get it. Yes. Because we can't be men and have God in an office of authority, and we now be the ones to dictate to him. He say, listen, this is what you have to do for us, or we kick you out of there. That's what we do. Yes. We kick you out of there. So you ask yourself, how workable is that? You see, and that's what we find ourselves in. Like for instance, now, we talk about. Let's say, we talked about peacekeeping missions. Previously, Brother Camilo said, that the peace of God is not the one you carry God to keep, like what we do. Say we are going to keep the peace, but the people who are meant to keep the peace are the ones carrying the guns as well. So that's not how the peace of God operates. Like now, for instance, let's say there is a conflict somewhere. There's a conflict in the country, and they have maybe a union, like let me say, like for instance, the UN, or NATO, or some other, or some sort of alliance. You see them sitting in a meeting, trying to dialogue and then find some sort of solution for the crisis and they take votes. They take votes,
Yes.
and in that vote, is the majority now that decides what happens in that place. And if you check most of the times, what drives the vote is just as you say, man. What man is after is his own interest. You see, so if you check out what drives those votes, it's everyone looking out for himself. You see, so the vote now is based on his interest, or her vote is based on her interest, not in consideration of what is happening there. So if everybody is voting based on his own interest, you will find that at the end, the situation has been neglected, and what has been voted on is their interest. So you see what majority does. You see, what the majority does is, as long as there are enough people to back whatever we are doing, whether it's right or wrong, that's what we are going to pass, and that's what we are going to do. That's what the government of men, that's what democracy as the nature of the government of men does.
And there you can see, it also goes to show clearly that it's not everybody that is entitled to their opinion, because if you want everybody's opinion to be heard, yes, to matter, you shouldn't
have laws.
Yes, you shouldn't have laws and maybe sit in a conference hall and have a meeting and everybody brought out their opinions and you take a section of people. It means that the rest have been neglected. That means that idea, that concept with men can't really work. It's not a good concept, because it's not everybody's opinion that really counts or cares for the interest of everybody. Mm-hmm. So in that case, the ideology of men that everybody is entitled to his opinion is really a very wrong concept, because it's only one opinion that should be right, and that is the opinion that should matters to everybody, and that opinion will go to see the interest and the well-being of everybody at hand, and that can only happen with God. Because with men, everybody cares about their own
interest.
Yes, their own interest. So it can't work with men, and that's not the principle that even men that says that can even keep to it.
We talked about these sayings being scriptural, and you try to point out that scriptures doesn't always refer to the Bible. That's what is written in the Bible, because just as he said, words weren't introduced by men. So definitely what they mean as well isn't men that would define them.
Yes.
When we say everyone is entitled to his own opinion, there's what we have interpreted that saying to mean, which is why it's not practical. It can't work with men. Because just as the instance now that you have made, you can see how impossible it is for everybody's opinion to count.
Yes.
You see? So what that saying actually translates, just like yesterday, or rather in our previous episode, we talked about election, what election now has to mean when it relates to God. Having each and every one of us as man to seek for that person who the Spirit of the Lord has put that his spirit in. That elect, that's what the election is meant to be, to seek for that person. You see, so that's in turn, that's what everyone having his own opinion actually translates to. Because you have to put down your own opinion, and seek for the person whose opinion should count.
You can see the present situation right now in Nigeria. Let me use the present situation in our country, Nigeria, right now. Because why we need to make remark of that is because of what we know is around, or who we know is around. We really need to make remark of that, so that our people can be aware. You can see the way the situation are going right now, the way things are happening.
Yes.
There's a lot of problem. How would I put it? Cooking, waiting to explode. There is. And the reason of that going on is as a result of the birth of that spirit in this country. I watched a video that a young guy was saying that Nigeria, until Nigeria, is not a Nigerian person.
Yeah.
But he said that a lot of people does not know what is in Nigeria. That until Nigeria wakes up, he said, Africa will never stand. What I said, it's not just Africa. Until Nigeria wakes up, the world as a whole will never stand. Why? He continued to say that Nigeria does not know what they have. But you see, that is a kind of saying that he's trying to cite something, but doesn't really, even him talking, doesn't really know what Nigeria has.
Yes.
So I'm bringing that to point to this issue that I'm trying to bring now. That the reason why the challenge in leadership in Nigeria is going the way it's going is because there is no man carnally that can lead this country right. Doesn't matter who they vote, who they swear in. Doesn't matter. Remember, we talked about government the last time. And we talked about the disobedience process. That is the kind of the character that we live in terms of the governance. What we are doing as the government, what we do, the process that we carry out. We talked about swear not at all. That is written in the Bible. In Matthew 5:84, that the Bible clearly stated there, swear not at all. And the government of the entire world, swearing is a ceremony. And they use the very Bible that they call Holy Bible. And they place their hand on top and take and hold against the very instruction that they believe is God that put that writing. So it's like they spit on the same God. And this is the same God that they are desiring help from. So the question is, if you are waiting for God to come and help you, or if you are desiring God to bring a kind of peace into your governance, to bring, peace in the seat that you see, how do you expect peace to come when you are going against the laid down rules that He has placed? You see, that is the challenge that we have. So right now, the reason why I'm saying this is because anybody watching us or listening to us need to understand that right now, it is time for democracy to end. And just like you said, why would the democracy end? It's because it's the government of the people.
Yes.
By the people. And for the people. There is no God. So why should we cry for God?
And even
He
with
shows, hold that thought. He shows that if God is coming to help us, He can never run from that our system.
that, yes.
So He's going to bring His system, and every man will follow that system.
Yes.
You have said that if God is the one sitting down there, how will you sit at the home there, at your house, and pick phone and call radio station and say, I want to say this for president. But we have said that the God that has been embedded in the country is not going to be a president of Nigeria. No.
Yes.
He's going to be the leader of the whole world. But the mystery that surrounds the governance of that person supposed to be whosoever, whether you are a politician, that you expose yourself to him, which is necessary to do that. And he talks to you, he will guide you to show you a way that you need to follow, contrary to the present way that the government is following. And once you put that into practical, you see the Spirit quickly respond to everything you are doing. Because we have said that the government is not the people. Remember, we have said that.
Yes.
That the government was already introduced before the men get into the office. And today you can see who is working in the office of the governor today. In River State we have the present governor. Yeah. But remember, there was a governor before.
Yes.
So there is somebody in that office, somebody on the office. So in every 4 years, they swear another person inside to go and work in the office of the governor. The question is, who is the governor? Who is the government? So we have said that the government is a force, it's a spirit. And as long as a man is not coming from that spirit, that is not the one that the spirit approved. As you enter there, no matter how sincere you think you are, you enter there, the force will work against you. And that is why you see there is nobody that can render help outside the person by whom the spirit has put that writing and said, behold, my servant in whom my soul delighted. So it must be somebody that the spirit will like on. Before you can now things can work for us. So I'm passing this for our country, Nigeria, to understand that the God that we are weeping for, we are crying for, is better in this country. And it is time for us to quickly seek for him. Not running around our democracy because things will never work. It doesn't matter who the person is.
So I wanted to add something to this democracy we just talked about. You see that why the spirits allow us to carry out this democracy, which is different from the one he's saying that he will elect. Indirectly, he said democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If you look at it, there's no leader there. You understand? Yes. There's no leader in that democracy. Yes. So that's why the spirit allow us to. Just like what the brother David just mentioned, say some other countries, they are doing dictatorship. Yes. You understand? The detectives, which is similar to what should be of God, yes. Which I would say that is not really, for somebody to hold that position like that, is not really okay. You understand? Because it's even better. Man. Yes, it's even better that they are doing this one. Because even the spirit sees that in this thing, there's no leader. Yes. Even this one, when we finish, we elect the person. But they say it's of the people, for the people, and by the people. So you can actually see that it is now that this one has to be done away in order for the one that the spirit talked about, which is why he said, my elect, just like what you mentioned. The elect is the one that you will elect that person, which is the one we are using the democracy to look for. So you can actually see it's the spirit that allows it to be like that. Yes. But it's now time for us to see that that thing we are seeing, there's no leader there. That's why somebody will get up and just like say, call a radio station to give order, to tell the president what to do. You understand? To show that that person is not the leader. Yes. That it's all about people. So when it comes to God, it will be totally different, which is not you that will have a right over that person. It's all about, that is how a leader should be.
You know, and if you can see, based on what she's saying, we can now see or understand the main reason why we as men are so opposed to the idea of God being a person in our midst. You know, you can see that. You know, because when we talk about, you know, parts of the world who still have you know, a dictatorship kind of rules or leadership, you know, we all frown against it. You know, because we don't see, or will I say we don't see, or when we see men occupying that kind of, or holding that, or having that kind of power and authority over us, you know, we as you know, we can't just understand that, because we are all, you know, we all bend to the will of that person. We all bend to the will of that person, you know, and because we always want to have our way to do as we like, which is why we are all against that. So when people, or when we oppose the idea of God, or when we find the idea of God in human form absurd, it's because of that. You know, we try to picture how, you know, one person, you know, one man like that, just as we say in our part of the world, one man like that, you know, who just have the capacity of God, because there's how we have painted God to be, you know, all powerful, all knowing, all this and all that, you know, and you now attribute all that to one man like that, you know, and we are looking at it and it's like, that God, he better remains a as that guy, as it was said in one of those videos we are watching, says air father. You should just remain the air God
and don't even know that stay there. Where our help will even make easy.
No, for the fact that we even allow people to do that, which is men. No, they are men. We allow them to. They are still ruling the people like that.
Yes.
You understand? So when it comes to the one you know that is God, and God is all knowing, all powerful, all everything, is that the one you will even reject?
That's because we have not seen, we have not understood the concept of what makes God as a person different from man. From man as a person as well.
Okay, yes.
We have not understood what makes God as a person different from man as a person.
Which is something we would even like to embrace.
You see, because if we get to understand what makes a person who is God different from a person who is man.
Yes.
When we understand that difference, that's when we can embrace that. You see, but will I say that is what we always try to bring to our people in this forum.
That is what we bring, not just trying to.
No, it's a trying because just as we say, we oppose things we don't understand.
Yes.
As men, we are hot-wired to go against anything that is outside our circle of our awareness.
Yes.
So anything that is outside that circle, we just cage ourselves against it, forgetting that circle, no matter how big it is, like this stand for instance, no matter how big the circumference of the circle is, what's outside of the circle, like look at the whole table, it's bigger.
Yes.
You see, it's bigger. So that is the struggle of man. Just as Brother Savior said, that's the hardest pill men would have to swallow. The fact that God whom we all cry for has to be a person in our midst for the help we all have been crying for to reach us. You see, so we can see now that democracy is not a workable principle as it relates to God. Yes. We men, we do what we do because we have been allowed by the Spirit to do that. Because He had programmed that men would continue to go the way they are expected to go till He produces God to be with them.
Yes.
And if you read the scripture, be it the Bible, as is written there, or the inspirational sayings that have been introduced to men by the Spirit,
yes,
you would always realize that men have no idea about their origin.
yes.
That is a certain fact. And when you relate to what is written in here, you would see that the people were always on ground living, expecting that help, expecting that Messiah to come.
Yes.
That is the picture that has been painted. Whether you read from Genesis till the end, the people were always on ground, expecting that help to come. You see, but we have always referred to the book as history. Forgetting that when we look at our world today as well, we are still crying for that same help.
Yes.
So if that help had been introduced as we claim it has been introduced, because we can read this, then I don't think we would need that. We will need that help, or we will need the book anymore.
Yes.
It's because that help hasn't been introduced yet.
Yes.
That is why we are still crying for that help, and it's blindness out of the ordinary for us not to see that. That till date, the same things the people who supposedly lived before us we are crying about in this book are still what we are still crying about that. See? So it shows the level of blindness, just as Brother Kufre mentioned. It shows the level of blindness. See? So in other words, what we are trying to let the people know is this, that government was introduced for control to be introduced as well with man, because man is a spirit that lacks control, and men can't have control over each other because it's the same spirit that run in each and every one of us.
Yes.
So the person who is meant to establish governance, which is control over men, is that person of God, which paints the picture of the elect.
Yes.
You see, that's what we are trying to let the people know. Yes. And that elect is whom we all are supposed to seek for, which establishes an election. Yes. And the establishment of that election is not because we are the ones to do
Election.
the choosing.
Yes.
The person is brought, and our work or our job is to look is to seek for that person and accept him. That's what our job is.
Yes.
And when that person has been established, whatever he puts to us, be it in form of an instruction, be it in form of of a guide, or whatever he puts to us. That's the work that we need, or that's what we have to follow, because it has been stated that the work of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. So what does that show you? Does that show you, or does that paint a picture of democracy?
No.
It doesn't. It paints a picture of submission to the person of God. So that's why democracy, as a nature of government, or as a nature of governance as it relates to man, has to end, because it doesn't have its roots founded in God.
Yes. So if God is a good God and he is the one to lead man, how will man know that he is good?
I don't get it.
Coming from the foundation of democracy, which is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This democracy is what the people want, and they've been running with it. So now that democracy has to end, and it will be willingly, both from the government and from individuals. So now be led by God himself, the person of God. And before now, it has been declared that God is a good God. He's a wonderful God. If he is our leader, what should we expect from him? Is it good things interpreted by us? Because the ways of God are not the ways of man. Do not forget that the spirit inside of man is not a clean spirit. It's not a righteous spirit. It's a disobedient spirit. It's a stubborn spirit. So if instructions will be given to you by God, it will be tough for you. So you cannot know how God is good until you follow his guide and instructions to see the outcome of what those instructions are. So even if you see him to be a dictatorship, his leadership to be a dictatorship leadership, it is for your good, because he knows where you are coming from. He knows that the spirit that was in you was a stubborn spirit, was a spirit that likes to do things his own way. So now that he's going to give you instructions, he knows that you are going to struggle with them. But that struggle is because of the first state you were born into. The first consciousness of loving the world and the things of the world. So to do away with the principle of democracy, to do away with the love of the world, it must take a struggle. So it is not something you should be angry, because the first life you lived was impository. The spirit who brought us imposed that life into you. So you don't have to blame anybody. The spirit did that on purpose, to keep you waiting for the one who will free you from that state. I'm saying this to those watching, that they should not be angry with the principle of the spirit of life, because it is for our good. That is why we have to accept his leadership, because it is to bring us life. It's to restore back our states to what he intends our states to be. That is only when we can have peace. That is only when we can see the fruit of love. That is only when we will begin to see long suffering in us. You can't see that when you are still in the other state. So, God is good. God is loving. It will not start like that. It will start by the principles that are tough, that are hard, that will bring you out of stubbornness, that will bring you out of arrogance, that will bring you out of pride, jealousy. And to bring you out of these states, the things you will keep will not be nice things. It will be tough. But if you can follow, because God does not hide his principle. He says that the way that leads to life is narrow and hard. And the people that are on that path, they are few. He does not hide it. So that is what to expect. Wherever you are, if you are coming to the person of God, know that the things he's going to tell you will not be easy to follow. But if you can follow them, it will be for your good.
No, that's why we say, okay, let me let you say what you want to say.
There's this thing I would like to, just keep it before you go to that landing point. We have said here that it is time for democracy to end all over the world.
Yes.
That is the main point of this sitting.
Yes.
We are not here to explain democracy, what democracy means for somebody, but we are using this, what democracy means, for somebody to see and know that, what we established, there's no God inside.
Yes.
So the help we try for cannot be there.
Yes.
So when we say it is time for democracy to end, that is because that is what the voice have said.
Yes.
On my own, I don't have the power to do that. But the voice that we have seen and heard have said that. And we are here to tell our word. It's a good thing. Because won't you, just like you said, it's a good thing. Won't you like to see a kind of government or governance that will bring peace to you? I'm going to read it in the Bible, something here. But there's this thing that I want everyone listening to understand. That there is this saying that he said, when the righteous is in authority, he said the people rejoice.
Yes.
But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn.
Yes.
For decades we have been mourning.
Yes.
I've never seen when we rejoice. I don't know, for those who can't money, who carry money in the Ghana must go from the government office. Even with the money that they carry, they know that they dwell under sorrows. We have said that government is supposed to protect life and property. But the government that will protect the life, not just property, the life, cannot be the government of men. Because man does not have life. Man does not have the capacity to even protect himself. Talk of protecting life. So the government that will protect life must come from that choosing one by whom the Spirit approved. So how long should we continue to mourn? How long? Because from what is going on, even if we add 10 to the present one, to make 10 presidents in Nigeria, it's the same problem that we have. It's the same thing to the entire world. But remember that everything that will begin must begin from somewhere.
Yes. So
if God has chosen to begin in this country, Nigeria, it is time for everybody to wake up. Because he said that when the heat of the fire is coming out, those who are close to the fire, they are the one that will get burned first. So that is why you see the problem. I've said before that the challenge that we have today in the country, Nigeria, that look like our own challenge is worse than the other country, which is not. It's because of the birth of the Spirit. Because the reason why we have the confused noise that is going on, everybody is Nigeria is doing this, Nigeria is doing that, Nigeria is doing this, is because the Spirit is trying to show us that the things you do as a man cannot work until I come to do the thing for you. Yes. So if you are better here, there is nobody that can make things work outside that person. Yes. We used to say nobody knows tomorrow. I keep telling people, how can you say no one knows tomorrow? Just say no man knows tomorrow. Because the one that God will bring to rescue you, he says tomorrow. That's why he comes to rescue you from the danger that is ahead of us. You see? So we speak this language and we don't know the meaning.
And that's what leadership was
to
achieve.
So a leader is supposed to know what is ahead. To know how to lead the people. You see, they sing them in song. They sang them in song now. He said, follow who know road. Who know road? Does any man know road?
Christ is the way.
Does any man know road? Nobody. Except that person by whom the Spirit has given that hand. So I want us to read something. Because I've said before that the government is not a person. The government is a force, and that force must answer to somebody. That's why today you see that even when a man is sincere enough and see the challenge of leadership and want to enter into the government and go and, when you are outside, you have a lot of plans that you want to go and execute when you enter inside. until when the Spirit bring you close to the office, He will now show you that you are not in charge. So that is why I said, let us read this in Isaiah 9.
Isaiah chapter 9
from 5.
verses from 5.
5 to 7.
And every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this.
No, I want to drive from the last point. From the last point you just said. You know, we keep using the word, this Bible. This Bible. This Bible is a prophecy book. This Bible, they are not past events. There's nothing that is written here that are event that has passed. But the challenge we have is the knowledge that we use as men to interpret. Will I call it interpret? No, to define the things that are inside. Because I've said before in one of the that the interpretation is when the person by whom the Spirit has chosen would come to be with us and make those things happen in our lives. That is what interpretation does. So here he said, the seal of the Lord will. So it is what the Spirit already established. And we have said that the Lord is the Spirit of creation. So when the Spirit has a plan on when He's coming to help humanity, He also has where He's going to begin from. I said before. You can see the kind of noise that is surrounding Nigeria today. Is it not a confused noise?
Yes.
I don't know whether you understand my point. The challenge that we have in the country now, you can go anywhere, they will tell you, Nigeria. No. This country, is because of the noise. There's a kind of noise that the country is carrying. That is also because the image that the Spirit is trying to put into everybody is so that when He's speaking out the new life, the same way that they are talking about them in the wrong way, everybody will turn and be talking about it in a good way.
Yes.
That is what it is. Because the Spirit is around them. So He cannot allow the things that the men do to work. So He said that it is that child that is better that the Spirit is upon. That is the child that is going to bear all the names that He put there. Remember, the names are not title. Names are function. But He added something more. He added something. After calling all the names, to show all that the God that you are looking for, the everlasting Father you are looking for, is that child. And the child is not the one that one female give birth to. No, I think we have talked about that. That the child that God sees is not this infant, this small child, what would I say, that somebody just give birth to. It's an adult. But what makes the person a child is because all his knowledge, everything that he has ever built with, has taken away so that the Spirit of God can establish His own identity in that person. That is why He said we also need to be competent and become as that, which is the knowledge that we have, to drop it down and establish by the way of God. So here He's telling you that of the increase of that is government
And peace.
and peace. He said there shall be no end.
Please, there's something I just want to add from this thing we are saying. Because this is the Bible portion we use in the world to see that Christ has, come and, born as a child and He grew up and He did all the manner of things. This is a Bible portion that we are reading now to see that this thing has not happened. I do ask, if this thing has happened, which one? Is there any history that talks about this thing that Christ performed? Because even the one that said this thing has to carry out, he said the zeal of the Lord will perform this, and of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end.
And it is believed that when he died and resurrected, he disappeared.
Yeah.
Because
So
the
what stopped
government
it?
will be upon his shoulder, and that government is an everlasting government.
Yes.
So where is it disappearing into the cloud to?
To see that this thing has not happened. So when we talked about this Bible, that these things are the prophecy, it has to be made manifest now.
Yes.
In our generation. It can see clearly that this thing has to come to pass now, that it has not been. So when we refer to that, Jesus has never been in this world. You understand? There's nothing like that. So it's not something somebody come out to say, I said Jesus, there has not been Jesus in the world. You can clearly see that that thing has never been. So it's now that has to be.
You see, that's why we say on this our forum or on this our program that the issues we try to raise on them, they form a lot of questions, and certain level of clarity is demanded. Yes. Because when you hear things like this, just as you said, when you tell somebody or when you make a statement that Jesus never existed in this world, and men feel like for centuries that they have been living, and they have all been taught of this Jesus. How will you just get up one day and say that this Jesus never existed? You see, so clarity is demanded for someone to understand the perspective of your own analysis.
Yes.
That's why we always say that when you listen to what we have to say, or when you listen to what we put out to you, and you need that clarity, you need that little bit of understanding. Like you send us an email via the email addresses on your screen, and be rest assured that we'll get back to you. You see, but then again, you can understand that no matter how much you type your responses, you can't exhaust what you have to say because there's a limitation in the typing.
Yes.
And that's why we have understood that, and we have said, okay, that if you prefer having to join us, live on our sessions, to have your questions, that's addressed directly.
Yes.
You can indicate that in your mail, and we'll establish a video platform, a video link platform to have you join us and have some sort of discussion face to face, though it's over the internet, but that would have to suffice for now. And that is a way you can get to us and clarify whatever issues that might have been raised on this program that demands clarity. So I would say on that note, based on all we have touched on this sitting, that we have come to the end of today's program. And just as we have said earlier, you can send us an email for clarity via the addresses on your screen, and we'll get back to you. So bye for now till we come your way next time.